So just a little bit about me. I'm Steve Nicholls. I'm the MD of Executive Connections, and we are a career coaching company working with senior level executives. We also get involved in outplacement and work with HR teams closely as well. We've been going for well over 10 years now. I've been involved in the coaching world for a lot longer than that, but my company has been running that length of time. We've got teams that are spread far and wide in those locations below and sometimes further afield, actually. So this series of discussions, and even though I start off, contradicting that with a presentation, the idea is that it's more of a discussion following the presentation. This is a thought-provoking piece, maybe, or a question-provoking piece. So we run different subjects throughout. As long as you've registered on Zoom, if you're viewing the recording, so apologies, I'm speaking to people that are viewing the recording hypothetically here as well. You'll be able to view any of the recordings, but you do need to have registered on Zoom, which obviously you guys have already done. So we all know about the CV. I mean, CV is just one thing that's mentioned there, but it is a subject that runs and runs. It's a subject that many people talk to us about. People get quite obsessed about their CV, as if that's the be all and end all of the job search. There's much more to it than that. And I think this day and age, with the world that we're in, you've got to start embracing other aspects of job search, technology-wise or otherwise, just to actually make sure you're getting across enough people's radar, making sure that you're being seen, and making sure you're being heard, and your message and your value proposition is out there to the world. So I talk about LinkedIn a lot, and we've done previous sessions primarily just on LinkedIn, but these are really sort of basic things which I would hope everyone has got covered up to this point. But we will mention them just to make sure, because sometimes repetition is necessary for these kinds of things. When I say about keywords there, you will be able to do, now I only know the Windows shortcuts, but if you do a Control F on Windows, you'll be able to find keywords. So within your LinkedIn profile, you might be looking for, CIO, for example. How many times is that phrase, call it a phrase, mentioned within your profile? The more times it's mentioned in a sensible kind of way, then the chances are that you will be picked up more by recruiters that are searching for that particular job title. You can't just pepper your profile with it and make it look like it's literally a keyword stuffing exercise. Do it kind of sensibly, but we will, we'll kind of come on to a little bit more about that perhaps. And if you have questions about that, then just ask. People often ask questions about LinkedIn generally. I only got an email yesterday actually from LinkedIn just telling me about different things that are happening, algorithm changes and things like that. I've not even read it yet, so that there are a lot of different things that could be happening. So, okay, one thing that's probably a bit of a shortfall for most people there is about industry groups and groups in general. Even peer level groups. They did have a reputation of being a bit spammy. Going back a while, but I think now they have kind of started to clean their act up a bit, and groups are looking like they're starting to become something useful to get involved in. And I'm saying that for my own benefit as well. I'm someone who kind of ignored groups totally for a long time, but it's certainly worth looking at if you haven't yet looked at it. Just on a piece about connecting with other industry, leaders and growing your network, just see it as a meeting of minds there. You're not always getting in touch with other people to say, hi, I'm Steve. Look, I'm in the market at the moment. My previous roles have been senior CIO. I'll stick to the CIO thing, senior CIO level roles. And You're not giving them a pitch. You're doing a peer level conversation. That's the idea with that kind of networking. Yes, of course, at some point down the road, you will be talking a little bit about your aspirations and so on. That's evident. So we've tried to keep this very, very brief. There's going to be a lot of different opportunities here, and a lot of different ways of using these aggregators that are coming onto the market, and they're there all the time. And I just had a recent last minute sort of check this morning of the couple of tools there, ZipRecruiter and Hired, which are two general ones. I've searched out senior level roles on those. They are there, so it's not just, you know, for a broad market. It gets down into the senior level roles also. I see. I apologise. Glassdoor's mentioned a couple of times there. I just wanted to make the point that in terms of salary benchmarks and things like that, which is important that you as a professional gain that knowledge about where you are in the market and about, you know, where your apologies. Where are we up to? There we are. So I think that that's one of the most important things. Just keep kind of revisiting. And just give me a minute, just letting a couple of people in. So Glassdoor's good. I mean, I've got quite a lot of time for Glassdoor, and it's very helpful for things like salary discussions and finding out about organizations. You probably find an inside track around you know, organizations that may be recruiting, maybe laying off. You get all sorts of themes and things like that. Just see Ian in the room. Good morning, Ian. Hi. We're just talking about technology in a job search, but not exclusively. As you know, any and all questions are welcome at the end of this. So I don't think that many people do this next part, and it's something that is just going to become possibly more important as LinkedIn gets saturated with content. You know, when I first started talking about LinkedIn, maybe it was 500 million, now it's 1 billion, and that wasn't that many years ago. So it really is, what else can you do? And a couple of examples there under Linktree and Card. You'll know of others, I am sure. Linktree is more about putting all your social, wherever your social sort of information is, on one piece of information that you can share with everyone. It'll take them off to all of that info on one particular format, one particular page. So it's handy for that. And Card is just one format for creating a call it a landing page for yourself, really. I mean, why would you want to do that? It just gives you your own real estate, if you will, you know, your own area that you can actually promote your own thought leadership and so on. I realize that LinkedIn's a major player, but just think about what else you can do that takes it outside of that, outside of that platform, and where you want to just refer people onto when you're speaking to recruiters and the like. I assume you're aware of you know, Medium, article sharing and article promotion sort of website as well. And again, not many people will have their own site of any description, but it's very, very straightforward to do these days. And I think we've got past the point where they look like they're homebrew kind of websites. They professionalize themselves a little bit more now. So that's good. So, okay. I always talk a lot about the hidden jobs market and the fact that recruiters and headhunters don't have every role. You know, they only have a small percentage of roles that are out there at any one given time. But having said that, it's worth engaging with your top 10, your top tier recruiters. And I think that's incredibly important as well. Just in terms of, yes, do the hidden jobs market pieces, promote your thought leadership, personal branding, network with lots of people, recruiters, hiring managers, see that as part of your job search. But also, as this slide alludes to, just have a few recruiters. I've not got a fixed number, but half a dozen really good recruiters that you relate to, get on with, will give you the time of day, and you know, you engage with their platforms or you engage with their consultant. It's still an important part of the whole process, obviously, tech or otherwise. So in terms of virtual interviewing, I hope you can see that I'm at this very second anyway, looking at the camera. It's obviously one thing we have to all get used to in virtual interviewing. Some people have a two system setup where they may be looking down at one computer, but actually your face is over there, and just make sure your setup is technically speaking all that it should be. Lots of conversations when we come onto Zoom calls where the technology has taken the default microphone is changed or the default video is changed and so on. Yeah, I remember doing it once on my laptop, and I had it sort of folded down a little bit, and I was projecting everything onto another monitor, but when it came on, all that they could see was a blurred view of my keyboard on the laptop. So these things will happen. Just make sure you know about all the platforms and make sure you check out that tech. You can initiate a Zoom call, for example, start a new call, and you can just go straight into that and actually look at your settings, test them out, make sure that if you want to share anything, that it's up on your screen, ready to share up on your desktop rather, ready to share, so that you're going into the right sort of document, as it were. But I think that also gives you the opportunity to practice and record. Obviously, with these platforms, you can record to your desktop or to the cloud and then play it back and get a feel for how you're coming across. You know, what's your background looking like if you're not using a sort of a virtual background of some description? Is there anything distracting? You know, have you put a couple of notes around the webcam that are points that you may want to bring up during that interview? So, like at Olympic, we've got to be good on camera these days, or at least competent enough to get through an interview and make that person feel that you're engaging with them. You're not going to be staring at the camera, you know, the whole time. Just kind of try and keep it natural and just get into that mindset. I mean, obviously there are plenty of courses. Just on the question of courses, I think that many people we work with, they're often thinking, you know, should I go off and do something a little bit more than this alludes to, actually? Shall I go off and do an executive MBA or something of that description? Will that help me? Most people I speak to, you guys, you know enough. You know enough already in your industry. You've learned enough. You know enough. It's often about application, how you're feeling about things. So it's mindset, and it's about technique in delivery and things of that nature. You want to come across, just going back to the previous slide, you want to come across in an interview as being a competent candidate. What are they asking? Do I like the person? Will they fit in? Can they do the job? That's essentially what's going on in their head. So you can see there are some that you probably are very familiar with, but I would keep yourself active. Different context to this. Some people we work with are in a role. They've been informed that they're exiting, or they've chosen to exit, or they may be on garden leave, or they may have not been working for quite a few months. So different emotions and different mindsets play into all of this. But I think it's very, very important. So using the tech is great, but it's also about making sure that when you get into those opportunities of speaking to people, that you are coming across as really compelling, really strong, and, you know, really competent at the end of the day. So as I said, I've already thought of a couple of things that I didn't include in this presentation ultimately, but tech has got such a broad range of things, and if you think of anything, feel free to ask the question. If I'm able to answer it, I will. Otherwise, I'll come back to you. But just some general sort of tips there, going forward, and making sure that you are, you know, using everything that you've got. Don't just stick to the same sort of rote processes you've been doing. It's stepping outside of comfort zones sometimes. It's doing something different, but you have to often do something different in order to create that success. So, yeah, I can't see the chat at the minute, but these links may well already be in the chat. I'll check it out and I'll put them in there if they are not. But because we get viewed, because sort of hundreds of views on recordings of these sessions, two types of people view the recordings. Essentially, people maybe like yourself who are in a job search at the moment. If you want to talk about the tech side of things or any other aspect of your job search, then I'd invite you to book a one-to-one call with me. That's a free session. Give you the chance to explain a bit more about what your own personal situation is. If then appropriate, I can in turn tell you a bit more about how we work with people like yourself. And the second group of people would be for HR. This is why we show these links on the screen, because people view the recordings, they can't view the chat. So, okay. That concludes the little quick thoughts about some technology aspects of the job search. These people here are just a few people that we've worked with over time, and you will see plenty of other opportunities on the website. Plenty of other examples, I beg your pardon, on the website. It's often the case that people come to us with a certain mindset, or they're very concerned about something, and over time, what we want to try and do is to help you to be a strong, competent candidate and come across as really, really compelling. And they've taken the things we've talked about today, they've taken these things on board, essentially. Just a little heads up for next week. It's about networking, essentially. So think about what networking you're doing at the moment, and maybe, what networking you could be doing. I'm going to do a little piece next week, same time, on networking. Like I say, if you are registered already on Zoom, which you will have done if you're here, if there are any job search subjects and you want to view the recording relating to that particular subject, then just flag it up to me, DM me, email me, whichever you like, really. So, okay. Hope there are a couple of questions, and I'll give you a minute to sort of gather your thoughts. I'll stop sharing, and then we will come back into the room. So thanks for your attention, guys. Appreciate it. Right, I think we're back. We're back here now. Right, so okay. Nice bunch of lovely looking people staring back at me. Here we go. So
I have a question regarding the executive search firm. So are these also recruiters, but only specialized for executives? Or
yeah, I mean, I've got no affiliation to any particular recruiters, but a couple that spring to mind, you're sort of in the UK anyway, not sort of Johannesburg would be probably a different story, but they will be around. So I would say that people like Heidrick and Struggles, Spencer Stewart, Russell Reynolds, there'll be other names that people are familiar with that you think of as being maybe the top 10 executive search firms. Those are the people that I'm talking about. Typically, for most people that come onto these calls, or most people that I speak with, it's not exclusively the case. When we're working with groups of redundant people, they're not all executives all the time. But those are the types of recruiters that I would be saying people should be talking to. The only caveat to that is really sometimes you've got people who've worked for those organizations and may have moved on, may have their own independent sort of search consultant type firm. They're a bit more below the radar. You can only really get to those by just networking like crazy and making sure you get across enough people's radar by your activity on LinkedIn that you get noticed. It's the only other way of doing it, really. But yeah, certainly a handful of good top executive recruiters would be the thing. A couple that I showed you on the presentation, the sort of aggregator type websites, I always keep tabs on those, and I always do some random CFO, CEO, CIO, etc. type searches on there just to make sure we're still talking that they are relevant to those kind of people, and they are just up to recent searches anyway. Don't know if that answers your question, Ulrika, but
no, definitely. Thank you.
okay. Let's just have a quick look in the message here. 1 second. Yeah, okay. So the links are in the chat if anyone wants to look at those. Yeah, okay. We're just double checking. So, has anyone got a question? I had someone asked me recently, is publishing, as in whether it's articles or whether it's long form posts on LinkedIn, is that really necessary? Is that really necessary to do, Steve? Because I know many people just don't feel comfortable doing that. They feel it's a bit too much like showing off, or it's a bit too much like promoting themselves. It's a job search and a networking platform is my answer to that one. It's about making sure that you get across as many people's radar as possible. I appreciate that promoting yourself by posts and articles and liking, sharing, commenting, all that kind of stuff. It's not the same as pressing quick apply on something or something related to that. It doesn't feel as tangible. It requires the patience to sort of work through a week or 2 or 3 or 4 of things starting to gather momentum and starting to take off. I think that's the way to look at that anyway. So that was a question somebody asked me just quite recently, so I thought I'd flag that one up in case it resonates with anybody. So, okay. Well, we have still got a bit of time. I'm still happy to hang around if anyone's got questions, but I think if no one's got any questions at all, then I will conclude the call. But so last call, last shout, as they used to say in the pubs here.
Sorry, yes.
Hi,
Linktree
yeah.
and hello there. Linktree and I'm sorry I was a bit late. I couldn't log in for some unknown reason. So
We've
I
had
spent
some
about
Zoom issues. There, technology again. Yeah.
right, excellent. Linktree and Card, I've never heard of before. Can you just explain a little bit more about it and what you would do? Because I think you mentioned
Yes.
thought leadership and using Card as a landing page and
Yes.
referring people to it. What actually do you mean as a landing page? And
Yes.
thought
Okay.
leadership, can you
That's
use some examples of what you'd expect to see
yes.
on that?
Indeed, that's me guilty of using marketing type phrases, I suppose. A landing page is just a page that you want to direct someone to that will give them an overview of your professional expertise and anything else that you want to, to promote to people that you want to direct to that page. I mean, it's important, I would say, in that context, when you think this is about you being able to design something in the way that you want, if you had a nice friendly photograph, a quick elevator pitch, a very, very potted career history with lots of wins highlighted, whether it be pound signs, dollar signs, percentages, whatever currencies you've worked in, etc. So it's a punchy one pager, essentially. With that kind of process, I'd say it's also important to have at the very end of it another marketing phrase, really, isn't it? A call to action. You probably heard of that one, where you are going to say, what is it you want people to do after they've looked at that page? Please give me a call to discuss suitable opportunities or possible areas of collaboration. Something of that nature.
Okay, and do search firms or recruiters actually look at these regularly? And how do they differ from LinkedIn? Or is LinkedIn just sort of another slightly more detailed?
Yeah, LinkedIn is going to be the first, the first place that people look, that many people look, because bear in mind, you create a web page, how much traction has it got out there in the world? Does Google recognize it? Where is it going to sit? It's not exactly going to be found by somebody searching necessarily. But over time, if people are searching for you by name, then there's every chance that page would be ranking. But what I can say is that you're not then within the realms of what is allowable and what is not allowable on LinkedIn. You can turn it into a page that really speaks to people about your own personality, the kind of value that you bring to things. And it's simply your own real estate. Let's put it that way. It's your own place that you publish. So it's another element. It's another element, I would say, and what you're looking to do is to get people to interact with you as much as possible, whether it's exchange of emails, whether it's pointing them off to 2 or 3 things they can look at, whether it's your cover letter, whether it's your whatever it actually is, the more touch points you have with the potential hiring manager, recruiter, whoever it might be, the better.
Yeah. Thank you.
But I'd recommend giving it a go anyway. It's certainly free. Yeah. Sorry, Dennis.
Steve, morning. Can I ask a question? I know it's a lot said about using Glassdoors and Indeed and LinkedIn, and also setting up your alerts. But
Yes.
I really wonder how good is the program behind? Because I give you a simple example. Maybe I applied for a role 2 or 3 years back on a Glassdoor, which was for a sales manager or a sales director. And since then, I've gone to Glassdoor again, kind of, cleaned it up again. Yet, on a daily basis, I get about 6 or 8 emails from Glassdoor, and I'm just landed up deleting all of them because 99% they're all irrelevant.
Yes.
Even though an alert or an agent has been set for a particular skill or kind of a role, there's all sorts of things that come. I think the height of it, I remember on LinkedIn, I also captured a screenshot of it because unlike many people where they only put the last 5-10 years of their career, on my profile, I've got from my very beginning, which covers almost 30 years or whatever. And then there is a alert which matches me to a job of a fresher. And I said, what? You must be crazy.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I wouldn't say to have, certainly on that last point about LinkedIn, I certainly wouldn't recommend necessarily going back that far. I mean, if you take it as a CV, as well, not many recruiters are going to look beyond 10 years of what you've done, and you need to have all your big knockout punches in terms of impressive points and things like that to within that 10 years. And then what many people will do will have a section after that says career pre 2014 or whatever it might be, and then more or less one-liners about what they've done after that period of time. But yeah, I mean, recruiters are also always going to be firing off things to people and getting it wrong, etc. I think going back to the point of Glassdoor, it's good for getting current things that might be happening or tensions that might be happening in a given organization. None of that requires necessarily to go down receiving all the emails and newsletters and everything else, but you want to know what's happening with an organization. You've got an interview tomorrow. You can do a Google news search on that organization to see if anything last minute has come up that would be good to mention. And the Glassdoor piece about, what's the sort of vibe in that organization at the moment and what's happening with them. So it's all about just getting a little bit of inside knowledge, essentially.
Okay.
I'm happy to have a one-to-one about that, Sanjay, if you wish.
I do have made a note of that, and also the word free, because where I am for the time being, I thought it might be good to have a quick chat with you. I will go to that link and set up a call with you
Sure.
just to get a sense. Because you see, one of the other things that I've done is having a very deep experience within a particular industry. Within UK, I have been going to lots and lots of events within those industry sector. And in fact, last week I was at one when one of the recruiters that I've been working for last couple of years, she was very candid and she said, listen, Sanjay, hiring companies are looking for freshers and, young people. They're not looking for people at 50 plus age kind of situation. And that really is something which is very difficult to comprehend because, on one hand, yes, no doubt, there is, people want young people, groom them, grow them, but also the older people bring a lot of wisdom and experience, which is helpful. But where do you find that kind of, employment kind of situation? So
You're not going to find me arguing with that point, essentially. You're not going to find me arguing with that point at all. But yeah, that's something we can certainly have a bit of a one-to-one about. I think the subject of just ageism generally as well is something where it's a general subject. I think we may have even done or I've forgotten subjects we've done there, but it's certainly a subject that justifies having an entire kind of conversation about like this, because it is something that does come up from time to time. It comes up quite often. So it's just important to make sure that that we talk about it and we don't get that in our heads too much, when we're going for the job searches. So
I think that's a really good point, Steve. And if you look at the attendees on this session, I would hopefully I'm not going to offend anyone, but none of us are spring chickens. However, you did hit the nail on the head, Sanjay. There's an awful lot of experience on this call. Absolutely. And if you cast your mind back to just after COVID, a lot of people of a certain age didn't return to the office. They decided that they quite liked that life of leisure. That's a big portion of experience that's been taken out of the job market. And I think that's a big differentiator for us. Conversely, if you look at the younger members of the working community, who do they learn from? It's a lot more difficult, I would argue now, for freshers to come in and to learn from more experienced peers. It just is. These Zoom interactions, they're great for meetings, but they're not really great for building relationships.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the water cooler, the coffee point, etc. So I think don't give up on that and don't have that stuck in your mindset. It's easy for us to all get stuck into that. I think what Steve's gone through is some really useful things in terms of the networking piece. Be active on LinkedIn. Do promote yourself you can do it in a subtle way as well. I'm not comfortable with videos personally, but I do hate the sound of my own voice. You might not think that, but I do respond to quite a few other posts, and I do chip in my 2p worth. People that know me know that when I'm looking for a job, because I've become more and more active at doing that, but it does pay dividends. And I haven't really been that active. I probably post once or twice a month now, but I still get the calls coming through. It's just enough for people to remind themselves of who you are. And the market isn't brilliant at the moment. You know, we've got a lot of things to navigate through, particularly over the next 4 to 6 weeks with the election coming up. The market hasn't been particularly good this year, but I think it will pick up towards the end of the year. You may or may not disagree. There's been lots of promises at next quarter, but I've been hearing that since last year. But in my experience, it will get better. It will always get better. So we can use this intervening period to really polish up what we do and go through some of the techniques that Steve said. So I do think that's an opportunity. Hopefully that's been useful. Sorry, I wanted to chip in because we can all get down in the doldrums about, I'm not going to find my next role. And you do hear lots of execs that aren't finding opportunities at the moment. There is a little bit of luck at play as well. There's no doubt about it. But equally, you can make your own luck.
No, that's brilliant. No, thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. That's really, really, really nice. Good sentiment and very, very well put. I think, you know, from the outset when you talked about the sort of age profiles and roles and things like that, and we might not, you know, water cooler conversations and about Zoom being fine, you know, etc. But we've had those water cooler conversations in the past, and we're doing this now. The difficulty, I think, with however broad the phrase freshers covers, really, they've always had that kind of piece. They've always been, you know, stuck in a room, or there's been COVID, or there's been whatever else, and now they're coming straight into the job market on a kind of a work from home or a hybrid type of basis. So it is an utterly different thing. What you said about the pace of job search, it's yeah, I mean, you know, we work with people sort of 3 to 6 months, you know, it can be an average, but it's very difficult to be specific with people because it depends on your own levels of activity. You've talked about putting some posts out. I think you said once or twice a month, and maybe that suits the amount of traffic or the amount of interactions you want coming back in with you. But if it was someone hardcore, you know, really going for it in terms of job search, then I think that yeah, I think that it's really, really important to ramp it up, maybe, you know, and just think about posting once a week, posting twice a week, whatever it might be.
I completely agree. And there was a period when I was really hard and fast at looking for jobs, and I was posting daily. And what I used to do, because I've put a lot of thought into it, and quite often I'm replaying back some other things I've read, but then put my interpretation on it. I would prepare something the night before, ready to hit send in the morning. Hit send in the morning about 6 o'clock, go off and have a jog, come back, start looking at the progress, start looking at the interactions coming through. People get to know you. And you talked about how many people are on LinkedIn. Probably less than 1% of those are doing the interactions. They are, and it's a differentiator. It really is. But you're absolutely right. It suits me at the moment. I don't want my current client to be concerned that I'm looking for something else. So I keep it a kind of reasonable minimum. But absolutely, when I ramp it up, I'll do it daily.
Yes.
No doubt about it. And it needn't be War and Peace. You know, you can just write small little pieces. I'd recommend you do it in Word first. You can check for all your spelling mistakes and everything, get it in the format you want, and then cut and paste it into LinkedIn. That's probably the best thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a few different things, and just on that point, you can different formats of posting as well. I mean, I suppose they're a little bit more faffy, a little bit more hassle, but you've got those things like those scrolling presentation things you can put out there. I just think in general, if you're putting content out there that is genuinely designed to help the reader in whatever context that is, then that's the right place to be coming from with it at the end of the day. Dennis, can I just say something to you, sir? You were waiting quite patiently there, but in terms of Linktree and those kinds of things, just reiterate what you were looking to
Well,
find.
it was a question really as to whether you could direct people to those landing pages from your LinkedIn profile, so that there's more than one avenue to get to the content.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yeah, I mean, there's the criteria now. I think it's worth checking out. I don't want to suggest this if everyone cannot do it. It may be based on premium accounts or free accounts, but there is a mode on LinkedIn called Creator Mode, which kind of just opens up different things to you. It doesn't mean all of a sudden you've got to start doing this, that, and the other. It just slightly changes the look of your profile. There is a piece just under your say you've got your name, your elevator pitch. You've then got a link that appears that says speak to me about such and such, or visit my website, or whatever text you want. And that one click thing can take people off to wherever you decide that landing page, to use that phrase again, should be. So yeah, I think definitely so. But have a look into your own specific account whether creator mode is something that you can use, because it might well fit the bill in terms of promoting yourself if you're in a job search versus just sticking to the standard way that LinkedIn presents itself. Hope that's good anyway.
That was useful, thank you.
Yeah, someone's my colleague Dorcas has just pasted something in about a question that I think probably came from another source about staying current on tech trends and so on. I mean, we haven't even covered things like AI, have we? I mean, someone told me just recently that what AI is going to be doing in 12 months' time is utterly unbelievable. It's just one of those things where we have to stick to that whole piece. I talk to people about human interaction quite a lot, and about how that will remain part of the process when you're going through a job search. Human connection is extremely important, and I think that there is a danger that we become just a little bit too obsessed with the tech stuff and forget about the human stuff. But I think, yeah, strategies for staying current. I think it's just about keeping in touch with your industry peers. It's about keeping in touch with the relevant websites that you would normally visit for your own expertise. You've all got your own forums. You'd all have your own specific websites and platforms that you use. So it is just about making sure that if you've been out of a role for a little while, really, that you're not seeming like you've lost touch when you go into the interview situation, essentially. So yeah, I think you're going to keep in touch these days. You can hardly fail to keep in touch because everything's just coming at you, full power in terms of news and tech and things like that. So thanks, Dorcas, for pasting that one in there. All right, well, we've still got a couple of minutes if anyone's got anything that's cropped up in their minds. Otherwise, guys, appreciate you giving up your time today to come along. The recording, link to the recording will be sent out. And if there are any things like you said, oh, I wasn't around for the CV one or the LinkedIn one or the job interview one, if there's any subject areas within the whole realm of job search that you feel we might have done a session on, and that's a bit kind of how do you know, but just pick on a subject, ask the question, and if we've got a recording on it, we'll send you the link to that recording as well. And you can DM me about that on LinkedIn. If you've got my email, you can do that, whatever suits you. So just suffice to say, have a very successful rest of the day, and perhaps I'll speak to one or two of you in due course, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks
Steve.
all. Thanks. Have a good day. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Good luck,
Thanks
everyone.
again.
Thanks, Steve and everyone.